Part 1. Inner peace begins with stillness. Imagine waking up one morning and nothing outside of you can shake you anymore. Not someone's cold glance, not a careless comment, not even the silence from someone you once loved. You're still here, calm, steady, unmoved like a mountain in the middle of a storm. Picture a life where peace isn't a flickering candle waiting to be snuffed out by the wind, but a quiet fire burning deep inside, stable, silent, steady. Most people live like open wounds. Every breeze feels like pain. Every word feels like a blade. They confuse sensitivity with strength. But let's be honest. Feeling deeply isn't always emotional intelligence. It's what you do with those feelings that counts. Being emotional is not the same as being strong. Emotional mastery means you feel everything, but you don't become everything you feel. And that's the kind of inner peace we're talking about. The kind that doesn't come from hoping life gets easier, but from building something stronger inside yourself. Peace isn't found, it's forged. Through choice, through practice, through uncomfortable moments where you learn to stay when everything in you wants to run. This video is your roadmap, not to temporary calm, but to unshakable inner peace. Not the kind that crumbles when people disappoint you, but the kind that stays even when the world gets loud, unfair, and messy. And here's the first truth you need to hear. Peace is not a gift. It's a discipline. We romanticize peace like it's something we stumble into during a yoga retreat or a trip to the mountains. But the real kind of peace, the one that lasts, that comes from daily decisions, it's forged in those moments when you don't respond to that rude message. You choose to breathe instead of explode. You walk away from an argument that's not worth your energy. You don't chase validation from someone who isn't capable of giving it. That's what emotional maturity looks like. And it's quiet. It's unglamorous. It's often invisible to everyone but you. True peace is not the absence of noise. It's your ability to remain steady inside the noise. It's sitting with your own thoughts and not needing to run from them. It's being able to hold space for discomfort without letting it define you. Because here's the thing, the world will not stop spinning. People will not stop being messy. Life won't stop throwing you curveballs. So peace can't be dependent on everything going right. It has to come from within. And this kind of peace isn't built overnight. It's built in the daily unsexy choices you make. Choosing not to gossip when you're frustrated. Choosing to pause before you hit send. Choosing to go for a walk instead of picking a fight. Choosing to sit in silence instead of numbing out with distractions. That's not weakness. That's self-control. That's you becoming the version of yourself that doesn't collapse under pressure. That's the foundation of real confidence. Most people chase peace like a feeling. They wait for it. They say, I'll feel peaceful when they text me back, when I get that promotion, when life calms down. But real peace, it doesn't wait. It doesn't ask permission. It's built, brick by brick, breath by breath. You choose it not once, but constantly. And let me tell you this, the moment you stop reacting to everything, the moment you stop letting every little thing pull you out of yourself, that's the moment you start to feel free. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer a prisoner to every thought, every comment, every emotion. You become someone who responds intentionally, not someone who reacts impulsively. You become steady, like a tree with roots too deep to be shaken by surface winds. So, if you've been wondering when peace will finally show up in your life, stop waiting. Start building. Start with today. Start with one moment of stillness, one deep breath instead of a knee-jerk reaction, one boundary instead of another emotional spiral. Because here's the truth. Your peace will never rise higher than your discipline. And as you develop that discipline, something shifts. You stop being so easily disturbed, not because you're numb, but because you've learned what truly deserves your energy. You don't react to every little thing anymore. Because, not everything is worthy of a response. Not every battle needs your sword. Not every message needs your reply. Not every emotion needs to be turned into action. Some things you just let pass through you, like clouds in the sky, because you've anchored yourself deeper. Part 2 will begin with the truth. You're not obligated to feel everything so deeply. Part 2. You're not obligated to feel everything so deeply. Here's something you've probably never heard, but you're not obligated to feel everything so deeply. Read that again, because the world keeps telling you that the more you care, the more human you are, that being deeply emotional means you're deeply alive, that if you don't feel it all, you're cold, distant, or disconnected. But what if I told you that sometimes the most emotionally intelligent thing you can do is not feel everything so intensely? You were never designed to carry the emotional weight of everyone, everything, all the time. But we live in a hyper-connected world that constantly bombards you with reasons to be overwhelmed. Your phone buzzes bad news. Your friend texts you they're anxious. Social media shows you someone's success, and now you're comparing. An old memory surfaces, and now you're spiraling. So what do? You absorb it all. You carry it like it's your job. Like being a good person means being constantly overwhelmed by what everyone else is going through. But that's not empathy. That's self-neglect. Let's get clear. You can care without collapsing. You can love without leaking energy into places that leave you empty. You can be kind without being constantly drained. That's not selfish. That's sustainable. Your nervous system is not a garbage disposal for everyone's stress. You're allowed to draw the line. You're allowed to say, I see your pain, but I don't need to feel all of it to validate it. That's maturity. That's what emotional boundaries look like. There's a difference between being connected and being consumed. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You start believing it's your job to hold every emotion, to solve every problem, to carry the weight of every relationship. And then you wonder why you're tired all the time, why you're burnt out, why you feel like you've lost yourself. It's because your energy was never meant to be this available. You were not built to bleed for everything you care about. You were built to discern, to listen to what's yours, and to let the rest go. Here's the lie most people believe. If I don't feel it deeply, I'm heartless. But no, you don't need to drown to prove you understand water. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is witness someone else's pain without turning it into your own. You can hold space, you can listen, you can support, but you don't need to suffer alongside them to make it real. That's not coldness, that's clarity. So how do you actually stop overfeeling? How do you turn down the emotional volume without turning off your humanity? Here's how. 1. Learn to observe instead of absorb. Every time you feel something big rising inside you, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine or am I picking it up from somewhere else? Your body knows the difference, but you have to slow down enough to hear it. 2. Practice the power of just because. Just because someone is upset doesn't mean you have to be. Just because someone is anxious doesn't mean you have to absorb it. Just because there's tension in the room doesn't mean you have to carry it home. Let people feel their feelings without you becoming their emotional storage unit. 3. Set energetic boundaries without guilt. It's okay to say, I love you, but I need space right now. I care, but I'm at capacity today. I want to help, but not at the cost of my own peace. You don't have to justify your bandwidth. Peace doesn't require an explanation. And if someone makes you feel guilty for protecting your energy, that's a red flag. Because people who respect you will also respect your limits. They'll understand when you say, not today. They'll honor when you say, I need to process this before I respond. They'll support you when you say, I can't carry this, but I'll walk with you. That's healthy, that's mature, that's real. You are not a sponge. You are not a fixer. You are not the emotional anchor for the entire world. You are a person with limits, with needs, with the right to feel deeply selectively. You don't have to cry with everyone to prove you care. You don't have to crumble every time someone else falls. You don't have to make every heavy thing yours to carry. Because when you try to feel it all, you lose the ability to actually feel anything fully. So here's the new standard. If it costs me my clarity, my peace, or my energy, I will pause before I pick it up. Let that be your filter, not because you don't care, but because you've learned that you matter too. You deserve a peaceful mind, a balanced heart, a body that feels safe to live in. And that won't happen if you keep absorbing everyone else's emotional noise. The deeper truth is this: you are not responsible for everyone else's feelings. You're responsible for how you hold your own. And when you stop taking on what's not yours, you create space to finally nurture what is. Your dreams, your healing, your growth, your joy. Because not everything that hurts is yours to heal. And not everything you feel is yours to carry. Part 3 will begin with, most of your reactions are just old wounds looking for attention. Part 3, most of your reactions are just old wounds looking for attention. Let's be honest for a second. Most of the time when you feel triggered, upset, anxious, rejected, it's not really about what just happened. It's about what happened before. It's about the thing from 5 years ago. That comment someone made when you were a kid. That wound you never fully addressed. That fear you buried under productivity, perfectionism, or people-pleasing. You think you're reacting to the moment, but really you're reacting to a pattern. Something inside you goes, this feels familiar. I've been hurt here before. And boom, your nervous system lights up. You go into defense mode. You overreact. You shut down. You spiral. All because some old pain decided to hijack the present. Here's the hard truth most people avoid. Until you heal it, you'll keep repeating it. Different person, different day, same wound. Someone doesn't text back, you panic. Not because of that person, but because of the abandonment you felt when your dad left. Someone criticizes you, you shut down. Not because of the feedback, but because you're still carrying the shame of never being good enough in school. Someone sets a boundary, you take it personally, not because of the boundary, but because it touches the part of you that always feared being unwanted. This is the emotional echo. It's not about now, it's about then. Most people try to fix the present by controlling it. They say, I'll just try harder. I won't let myself feel this way. I'll make sure this never happens again. But they're fighting shadows. You can't heal a pattern by managing surface reactions. You have to go deeper. You have to ask, what's this reaction really about? And that question, it's not just emotional work. It's spiritual maturity. It's how you begin to respond instead of react. Think of it this way. Your triggers are like smoke alarms. They're loud. They're uncomfortable. They make you want to run. But they're not the fire. They're just the signal. The fire is usually buried in the past. And unless you go in and investigate the real source, you'll keep reacting to the smoke and never stop the burn. So, let's make this practical. Next time you feel a strong emotional reaction, pause and ask yourself, what's the story my mind is telling me right now? Where have I felt this way before? What wound might this be poking at? Because awareness is the first step toward reprogramming. And once you become aware, you can start healing the source instead of constantly managing symptoms. Let's say you're in a relationship and your partner forgets to check in one day. If you're healed, you might think, they're probably just busy. I'll talk to them later. If you're not healed, you might spiral. They're pulling away. They don't love me. This always happens. People always leave. See the difference? The same situation, but one response is grounded. The other is a wound reacting. And that reaction has less to do with your partner and more to do with your history. Most people are walking around reliving old pain in new situations. That's why the same patterns show up over and over. It's not just bad luck, it's unhealed programming. So the work is this. Stop blaming the present for the pain of your past. Your partner isn't your parent. Your friend isn't your ex. Your coworker isn't the bully from school. But your nervous system doesn't know the difference until you teach it. This is why healing is less about what's happening now and more about reparenting your emotional history. It's sitting down with your 10-year-old self and saying, you're safe now. I've got you. You don't need to panic. You don't need to fight. You don't need to run. I'll handle this. That's what emotional freedom looks like. It's not the absence of pain. It's the presence of clarity and compassion even when pain shows up. Here's something powerful to remember. Not every emotion is true. Not every thought is real. Not every reaction deserves your energy. Some are echoes. Some are scripts you inherited. Some are reflexes you developed in survival mode. But you're not there anymore. You're not the child who had no control. You're not the teenager trying to earn love. You're not the version of you who had to prove their worth to be safe. You're here, now, and now you get to choose differently. So next time you're triggered, don't just react. Get curious. Ask, what is this moment reminding me of? Is this feeling from now or from then? What would the healed version of me say right now? This is how you start creating space. Space between stimulus and response. Space where freedom lives. Because the more space you have, the more power you have. The more clarity you have. The more peace you protect. Final reminder, you don't have to keep living out old stories. You can heal. You can rewrite. You can reclaim the parts of you that got stuck in survival. And when you do, you'll stop being so reactive because you finally become responsive, not ruled by pain, but led by presence. And that's how you become unshakable. Part 4 will begin with, your boundaries are not walls, they're doors to peace. Part 4, your boundaries are not walls, they're doors to peace. Let's talk about something that's been misunderstood for far too long. Boundaries. When people hear the word boundary, they often imagine something harsh. A wall, a rejection, a cold, sharp no. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. And the most powerful, peaceful people you'll ever meet, they don't build walls to keep people out. They build doors that open selectively when trust, safety, and mutual respect are present. You don't set boundaries to punish others. You set them to protect your peace. You don't say no to be mean. You say no so that your yes actually means something. Because without boundaries, you become emotionally flooded. You say yes when you mean no. You feel resentment build where love used to live. You wake up exhausted, confused, while you're always running on empty. And eventually, you lose yourself, not all at once, but little by little, each time you silence your truth to keep the peace, each time you prioritize their comfort over your clarity. Here's what most people get wrong. They think boundaries are about other people, but boundaries are really about you. They're how you teach the world to treat you, not through force, not through guilt, but through clarity. Boundaries say, this is what I will allow. This is what I won't. This is where I begin. This is where I end. And that's not controlling. That's self-respect. Some of you were raised to believe that setting boundaries is selfish, that good people never say no, that love means always being available, that kindness means bending over backwards even when it hurts. But let me ask you this. If you constantly abandon yourself to please others, who's going to show up for you? You cannot serve from a place of depletion. You cannot give love, patience, or presence when you're running on fumes. So, if you want to build unshakable peace, you need to stop overextending and start realigning. Here are 3 boundary shifts that will change your life. 1. From I don't want to hurt them. 2. I don't want to harm myself. Every time you say yes just to avoid guilt or conflict, you silently say no to your own peace. Guilt is not proof you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the echo of your conditioning. Learn to sit with that discomfort. It won't last, but the peace that comes after that will. 2. From I have to explain everything to no is a complete sentence. You don't owe everyone an essay about why you need space. Clarity is kind, but over-explaining is often just fear in disguise. You can say, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I'm focusing on other priorities right now, and that's enough. 3. From if I set boundaries, people will leave. 2. If I don't set boundaries, I'll lose myself. Let them leave. If your boundaries push someone away, they weren't truly aligned with your peace to begin with. The right people won't just tolerate your boundaries, they'll respect them. They'll honor your needs. They'll see your clarity not as confrontation but as confidence. You're not too much. You're just finally not available for less. Setting boundaries might feel awkward at first. You might shake. You might overthink it. You might second-guess yourself. That's normal. Because if you've spent your life being the nice one, the easy one, the accommodating one, then choosing yourself will feel like betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's healing. It's what your younger self wished you had done sooner. It's you saying, I am no longer abandoning myself to be accepted by others. That's not selfish. That's sacred. Let's reframe this forever. A boundary is not a rejection. It's an invitation to meet you where you truly are. A boundary is not cruelty. It's clarity. A boundary doesn't destroy love. It protects the conditions where love can actually grow. Because real love, real peace, and real connection, they only thrive in truth. And you can't be fully loved if you're only showing up halfway. So here's your reminder. You are allowed to say, I need time. I need space. I need to not talk about this right now. I need rest. I need to feel safe. Not because you're dramatic, not because you're difficult, but because you're done living small just to stay likable. One last thing. You don't have to be loud to be firm. You don't have to be angry to be clear. You don't have to fight to protect your peace. You just have to know who you are and act like it. Boundaries are how you speak your truth without raising your voice. And when your boundaries are aligned with love, not fear, you become unshakably grounded. Part 5 will begin with, stillness isn't emptiness. It's where truth lives. Part 5. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's where truth lives. We live in a loud world. Noise everywhere. Notifications, deadlines, conversations, expectations. Constant pressure to keep moving, keep achieving, keep proving you matter. So we run from silence, from space, from ourselves. But here's what no one told us growing up. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's where your truth lives. You can't hear your own soul when your life is full of static. And the longer you run from quiet, the further you drift from clarity. Most people confuse stillness with laziness, with boredom, with loneliness. But that's only because they've never truly sat with themselves long enough to get past the noise. The noise says, you're falling behind. You need to fix this now. You should be doing more. If you're not achieving, you're failing. But stillness says, pause. You're okay. You're not broken. Just breathe. Stillness is the space where your nervous system resets, where wisdom starts to surface, where pain finally has room to be heard and released. It's not the absence of life. It's where life begins again. If you want to build unshakable inner peace, you need to stop looking for it in more noise, more input, more advice, more distractions. You don't need more stimulation. You need stillness, because everything you're seeking, the healing, the clarity, the next step, it's already within you. But you won't find it until you slow down enough to listen. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly still? Not scrolling, not multitasking, not distracting yourself. Just sitting, breathing, being. No answers to find, no roles to play, no problems to solve. Just you. And how did that feel? Uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort is the doorway. Because most of us aren't afraid of silence. We're afraid of what it might reveal. Here's what you'll notice when you practice stillness. You realize how loud your inner critic is, and you start learning how to turn the volume down. You notice what emotions you've been avoiding, and you begin to process, not suppress. You feel urges to do something, but eventually you learn the strength of not acting immediately. Stillness teaches you restraint, patience, presence. It's how you stop reacting and start responding. One of the most powerful things you can ever do is this. Pause before the pattern. Pause before replying. Pause before reacting. Pause before spiraling. Stillness doesn't make you passive. It makes you wise. Because from stillness, you get to choose. Do I actually need to say this? Is this reaction aligned with who I want to be? Am I moving from fear or from clarity? That's what inner peace feels like. Not the absence of feelings, but the ability to choose what to do with them. You don't have to escape to the mountains to find stillness. You can find it in 3 seconds anywhere. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly through your nose. Exhale even slower through your mouth. Do it again. Feel the drop. That's your center. That's where your strength lives. And the more you access that center, the less the chaos of the world can shake you. Stillness also gives birth to something even more important, self-trust. Because the more time you spend in silence with yourself, the more you realize you don't need constant advice. You don't need to poll 10 friends. You don't need to second-guess every step. You've just been too busy, too distracted, too overwhelmed to hear it. But when you pause long enough, your intuition gets louder. Your inner voice returns. Your confidence grows. That's the power of stillness. It reconnects you to you. Final reminder, you're not a machine. You weren't built for constant output. You need space to recharge, to reflect, to realign. Because without stillness, even the most beautiful parts of life start to blur. You lose your spark. You forget why you started. You begin surviving instead of living. So stop running, sit down, be still, and listen. Your peace is not somewhere out there. It's in the quiet moment you choose to come home to yourself. Part 6 will begin with, calm doesn't mean indifference. It means you're in control. Part 6. Calm doesn't mean indifference. It means you're in control. There's a common misconception in our world today that calm people are cold people. That if you don't react with emotion, if you don't match the chaos, if you don't get loud or defensive or dramatic, then you must not care. But that's not true. Calm doesn't mean you're indifferent. Calm means you're in control. It means your nervous system is anchored. Your emotions are aligned. Your energy is reserved, not wasted. And that is power. We live in a culture that praises quick reactions. Clap back, speak your mind, don't let them talk to you like that. But very few people celebrate restraint. Very few admire composure. Even fewer understand that calmness, especially in moments of tension, isn't weakness. It's mastery. Being calm in the face of chaos is not a passive act. It's a deeply intentional choice. It means you've trained yourself not to react impulsively, escalate unnecessarily, take everything personally, sacrifice your peace for a moment of ego. Because here's the truth. Not everything needs a reaction. Some things deserve your silence, some things deserve your exit, and some things just aren't your problem to solve. Think about the most grounded people you know. They're not constantly explaining themselves. They're not running around trying to be understood. They're not emotionally explosive every time something doesn't go their way. They're calm, not because they don't feel things, but because they've learned not to let feelings drive the car. They observe, they breathe, they act when necessary, but never react to every little thing. That's not being disconnected. That's being disciplined. Let's break this down even more. 1. Calmness doesn't mean apathy. It means clarity. When you're calm, you're not numb. You're simply not letting emotions distort your vision. You can see the situation clearly. You can separate fact from feeling. You can respond with intention, not intensity. That's what leadership looks like in business, in relationships, and in your own life. 2. Calmness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've chosen not to be consumed. You can love deeply and still hold boundaries. You can disagree without disrespect. You can feel pain without making it your entire personality. Being calm means you're saving your energy for what matters, not leaking it into every argument, every misunderstanding, every minor inconvenience. 3. Calmness doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to sit in discomfort without needing to offload it onto someone else. That takes emotional maturity. That takes inner work. That takes self-awareness. Anyone can yell. Anyone can slam a door. Anyone can let their emotions run wild. But it takes a centered soul to breathe through the storm and say, I don't need to match this energy. I can stay grounded. Here's a mindset shift that will change your life. I don't chase chaos. I protect peace. That means walking away from pointless debates, not engaging in gossip or drama, choosing not to respond to provocation, letting things go that don't serve your growth. Not because you're scared to fight, but because you've outgrown fighting everything. You've realized that peace is more valuable than being right. That not everything deserves your presence. That not everyone deserves a seat at your emotional table. Calm is a strategy. Calm is a shield. Calm is the difference between being reactive and being resilient. When you respond with calm, people notice. They may not say it, but they feel it. And more importantly, you feel it. Your mind feels clearer. Your body feels lighter. Your decisions become wiser. Let's be real. The world doesn't need more chaos. It needs more calm people. People who aren't triggered by everything. People who can hold space for tension without adding to it. People who can choose stillness over spirals. Be one of those people. Not because it's trendy, but because it's freeing. So the next time someone tries to bait you, or life throws something unexpected your way, or your emotions start boiling, pause, breathe, center yourself. Then ask, what would the healed version of me do here? Is this worth disturbing my peace? Will this matter in 24 hours? That split second of calm can save you hours or even years of unnecessary pain. Final reminder, you don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to be reactive to be powerful. Your calmness is your quiet confidence. Your groundedness is your silent strength. And your peace, that's your greatest flex. Part 7 will begin with, you don't have to earn rest. You were never meant to hustle your way into worthiness. Part 7. You don't have to earn rest. You were never meant to hustle your way into worthiness. Let's talk about something almost nobody says out loud. You're allowed to rest. Not because you've earned it. Not because you're burned out. Not because everything on your to-do list is finished. But simply because you're human. We live in a culture that glorifies exhaustion, that celebrates the hustle, that treats rest like a reward for collapsing after you've done too much. But rest is not a luxury. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not weakness. Rest is a requirement for healing, for clarity, for emotional peace. Think about it. You don't ask your heart to beat only after you've had a productive day. You don't ask your lungs to breathe only if you hit your goals. So why do we treat rest, mental, emotional, and physical, like it has to be earned? Because somewhere along the line, you were taught that your value equals your output, that in order to be respected, you had to be productive, that in order to be loved, you had to be useful, that in order to feel good enough, you had to do more. But that's a lie, and it's a lie that's been burning you out from the inside. You don't have to hustle your way into worthiness. You already have worth, even on your quietest days. You're allowed to pause, to breathe, to not be on all the time. The world will try to convince you that if you're not grinding, you're falling behind. But let me tell you something. You don't find your peace by sprinting. You find it by slowing down. Slowing down is where the truth lives, where the soul speaks, where you come home to yourself again. So how do you give yourself permission to rest? How do you unlearn the guilt that creeps in every time you stop doing? You start by changing the story from, if I rest, I'm falling behind, to, if I don't rest, I'll lose myself, from, I have to earn every break, to, rest makes me stronger, not weaker. From, what will they think if I step away, to, what will happen to me if I don't? You're not a machine. You don't exist to produce. You exist to be. To create, connect, feel love, rest, reflect, grow, and just live. And sometimes, doing nothing is exactly what you need to reconnect with everything. Let me say this clearly. You don't need to hit rock bottom before you take a break. You don't have to wait until you're on the edge of burnout. You don't have to justify needing space. You don't have to explain why your peace matters. Take the nap, turn off the phone, cancel the plan. Say, I'm not available today. Not because you're being dramatic, but because you're being responsible with your energy. And here's the magic of rest. When you create space, your mind recalibrates, your body heals, your spirit begins to rise again. That's where clarity returns. That's where creativity lives. That's where inner peace is rebuilt quietly, gently, steadily. You stop overreacting. You stop overthinking. You stop overgiving because you've returned to your center. Now I get it. Maybe you've spent years being the reliable one, the overachiever, the one who says yes even when your soul screams no. So rest feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable even. But that's not because it's wrong. It's because it's new. And everything new feels strange at first. But lean into it anyway. Your nervous system will thank you. Your future self will thank you. Your inner peace will expand in ways you didn't know were possible. Final truth. Rest is an act of rebellion in a world addicted to chaos. Rest says, I matter even when I'm not producing. My worth isn't tied to how busy I look. I choose peace over performance. And the more you rest, the more you realize you were never lazy. You were just exhausted from proving your worth in a system that profits from your self-doubt. But that ends now. Part 8, the final chapter, will begin with protecting your peace is a lifestyle, not a one-time decision. Part 8, protecting your peace is a lifestyle, not a one-time decision. Let's wrap this up with a truth that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. Protecting your peace isn't something you do once. It's something you live by every day. Because the world isn't going to stop being noisy. People won't suddenly become less demanding. Your past won't disappear overnight. And your emotions won't always cooperate. But here's what you can do. You can build a life so aligned, so rooted in clarity, boundaries, and self-respect, that nothing external gets to steal your internal calm without your permission. That's real power. Protecting your peace isn't about avoiding every storm. It's about becoming the type of person who remains anchored during it. It's not about eliminating discomfort. It's about knowing how to respond to it. And it's definitely not about pleasing everyone. It's about honoring yourself even when others don't understand. Because at the end of the day, it's not your job to make everyone comfortable. It's your job to stay connected to what makes you whole. So what does a peace-protecting lifestyle actually look like? It looks like saying no without over-explaining, letting people be wrong about you and not losing sleep over it, giving yourself time before reacting, cutting off the internal monologue that says you're not doing enough, creating sacred rituals, whether it's a morning walk, silent coffee, or journaling at night, removing yourself from spaces that reward loudness and punish softness. It's the small daily choices that protect your big emotional energy. There's a version of you on the other side of chaos. She or he is calm, clear, rooted, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Not louder, but more intentional. You don't argue just to win anymore. You don't overextend to be liked. You don't show up out of obligation. You show up from overflow, not emptiness. Because you've done the work. You've slowed down. You've set the boundary. You've healed the trigger. You've given yourself permission to stop carrying what was never yours. Here's a question worth asking yourself every morning. What would it look like to move through today in peace? Not performance, not panic, not proving. Peace. Would you speak slower? Breathe deeper. Take a walk without your phone. Say, "I'll get back to you," instead of immediately answering. That's what this is about. Peace isn't just a mindset. It's a rhythm, a flow, a homecoming. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You're not responsible for the chaos that shaped you, but you're responsible for what you choose to carry into your future. So let some things go. Let go of the overthinking. Let go of the people who only love the version of you that's always available. Let go of the need to fix what was never broken and return to what's always been true. Your peace is sacred. Your boundaries are holy. Your rest is non-negotiable. Your emotions deserve respect, especially from you. If no one's told you this before, hear it now. You're allowed to live a gentle life, a quiet life, a life that doesn't demand your suffering to feel valid. You don't need chaos to feel important. You don't need struggle to prove you're strong. You don't need to be anyone else's emotional sponge. You just need to keep showing up for you, softly, steadily, boldly. In a world addicted to noise, choosing peace is a radical act. But once you taste it, really taste it, you'll never go back. Final thoughts. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start with one shift, one boundary, one slow breath, one moment of stillness. That's all it takes. One aligned choice at a time, until eventually you wake up in a life that no longer drains you, but restores you. Because peace isn't out there, it's in here. and it's been waiting for you all along. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Now go protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does.